With God, there is always more. More love, more life, more freedom. Welcome to Zoe's Exploring More with Michael Thompson. C.S. Lewis once wrote, "Our Heavenly Father has provided many delightful ends for us along our journey, but He takes great care to see that we do not mistake any of them for home." Join me and the team as we explore the kingdom together, discovering the deep truths and offering encouragement for the journey. There is always more.
Welcome, listeners, to the Exploring More podcast. I am Serena, the audio engineer. This episode features the second half of the interview between Josh Wilson of the Uncensored Advice for Men podcast and Michael Thompson as they continue to unpack the idea of rebuilding who I am. Josh shares what happens to him after the passing of his father.
So the way, right? The question is the way. So my dad was a perfectionist. He was very detail-oriented. He was very process-driven. He can focus. I'm very opposite on a lot of stuff. I was the demo guy, right? Doesn't take a lot of brains to be a demo guy. I was the demo guy. He had me a big hammer and he would set any project and I would just demolish it quickly. That last project we did together before he passed away, he was like, "Oh my gosh, I thought you were going to take like a week to do it. I did it in a day." It was fun for me. That was like an expression of my art. My art is destruction, you know?
Deconstruction, destruction.
Yeah, that's right.
I love that about the podcast. That's one of the things you want to deconstruct, this idea of we're going to throw away the baby in the bathwater with masculinity. You are a deconstructor. You have a very skilled craft. That's really interesting. That's actually a gift for me today to hear you say that and to see how passionate you are about clarity and truth and the deconstruction of things that aren't. And so, yeah, there's a reality of that for sure.
Love taking things apart, love breaking things. Favorite thing in the world to do. Like, I was a firefighter. You send me into a burning building and I'm kicking doors down and I'm breaking things and I'm having fun and yanking people out. Like, I love that pure exhaustion because I think my brain was hurting, but very opposite of what my dad was. My dad painted. He loved trim carpentry, crown moldings, and he loved the fine cuts of wood. And it's like a perfect fit, measure twice, cut once. And not me, man. Like, everything I did was messy and it was brute force and it was fun for me. So growing up, when you talk about the way, he wanted me to be like him. And that was so difficult in my life because I wasn't that detail oriented. I couldn't paint in a straight line. I made a mess and I was just very messy. And it wasn't until him and I had a fight a couple months before he passed away that I think he really accepted who I was. And I'm not him, but I tried my whole life to try to fit that. And it was just constantly just disappointment after disappointment and constantly underperforming and constantly just feeling this angst of who I am in this whole thing because I just didn't fit in the guy that he was trying to make me to be. And it was tough because I didn't want to disappoint my dad. And I tried so hard because I thought that's what success is copy the guy in front of you. And if you do that, then you'll find happiness and success. He loved construction. I love destruction. I love breaking things and sometimes breaking me. But it wasn't until we had an argument. Do you mind if I share that quick story?
No, go ahead.
Okay. So we were hanging out at his house before he passed away and I mowed the lawn. So I wanted to bless them and I mowed the lawn and I took extra time, man. I tried so hard because I took the edger and then I took the weed eater and then I blew everything off. And it's just like, if it was my grass, I probably wouldn't have done as good as job because I tried there,
But you know whose grass you were cutting. So
so I tried really hard to make daddy proud. Here I was in my late 30s, still trying to make daddy proud, right?
Yeah.
And then he goes, "Hey, Josh, thanks for doing the grass." He goes, "If I did it, instead of blowing it into the street, I would have swept it into a pile and put it in the trash." And I go, "Are you serious? That's what you got out of that whole thing? If it doesn't matter what I did, I didn't just," and it really affected me. I didn't go to yelling or fisticuffs with him. I go, "Really, Dad?" I said, "Dad, I'm never going to meet your expectations of becoming you." And I said that. And I said, "I'm not you, man." I was like, "I tried for you, dude. I'm not you. I cannot meet your expectations of becoming you. If you measure me by your lens of that, I'll never win." And he got upset. And there was this, do we confront each other or do we just move away? And mom's there going, "Oh God, what's going to happen?" And he just got into his diesel truck and drove off, went to the job site. I sat down and I go, well, that was weird. I thought we were going to fight or something. I don't know what was going to happen. He came back. I was sitting there and I was making my sales calls. He came back and I've seen my dad cry twice. He came back weeping. He hugged me. And this is a month before he died. God's gift of this, man. He came back and he goes, Josh, I am so proud of you. You're such a good man. He hugged me. And he goes, I'm so sorry.
Wow.
My heart broke, man. Like,
that's wonderful.
Yeah. That was
so
tough.
Time out, Josh. Let me just do something for listeners real quick. This is the way. If you avoid conflict, if you avoid stepping in, if you had just sulked in that, and we all do it. I get it. I've done it. But hopefully with enough courage, if not just reacting, right? But if that's been a storyline in your life for a lot of your life, and here you get to share that and know that that wasn't the game, that was a quarter, or that was an inning, or that was a play in a game. And realizing that this story has many, 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 many plays, at bats, quarters, innings, and knowing that there is more and that this piece is going to then lend itself to the next piece. That's the invitation of some of this, Josh, is for our listeners, your listeners, the listeners, to see what's going on in the moment is a part of the way. It's part of the way, whether it's frustration or elation. And to know that you're not having to play both sides of the chessboard, right? You make your move, your dad goes away, and he comes back and makes a brilliant move. Something that your heart needed. I'm proud of you. That is a very close second. That's a very close second to I love you. And for a man from his father, I'm proud of you, it might be a rival equal when we hear that. You beat me to the question, which was, so how's God working in all of this? How are you seeing God working? And that was a story bonus that I needed to hear. I'm thrilled to hear it, honored to hear it. The other one that you had mentioned to me was, and I need you to share just a little bit with the listeners what you shared with me a few weeks ago about moving home. And I want to rival you too. I'm not going to tell you what to think or feel. I'm going to say, you are a construction man. You have built many businesses, many podcasts. You've built that for other people. When somebody builds a deck for you, they leave and the deck stays. You've done that with a lot of clients, a lot of customers. You've constructed things. I know you like to deconstruct things, but I also see you as a construction artist as well. There's a facet of your life that's glorious in that way. Not all of them have worked. Not all of them have lasted. Some of the people you've left those things with, they didn't maintenance that very well or do as you instructed them to do. Anyway, I want to go back though to God's movement in this. That story of the grass a month before he passes, how incredible. And there's men out there who their story with their dad ended with dad drove off. They don't get that other piece. They don't get that other movement. And that is a loss of heart. That is a brutal thing to have to then try to live with. And in our case, we would say, bring to God. What do I do with this? But there's another sweet story. So when we did our podcast in June, your dad was in the frame. In the studio that June, you had Bruce as your wingman.
Yeah.
I think he had gotten a hold of the book or you'd shared that with him. And so he's on with the author guy. And that was an honor. So I had a few minutes with Bruce, but I had an hour with a father and a son, this thing that's a very, very powerful thing. And you had a few minutes before we went on air, talking about one another. So were you home then in June?
So let me say this for the guys listening in, you may not believe in God. You may have had the father that just drove off. Part of my language, fuck you, and I'm out of here, right?
Right.
That might be the story of some guys out there. Let me just
For now, that might be the story.
Right. Let me just share this with these guys is that may have happened to you. I believe in God and that he is the answer to this. Whether you do or don't, hear this, is be the man that doesn't do that to others. Like stop that trend and then be the guy who drives back and says, hey, I'm sorry. I love you. I'm proud of you. Be that man, right? So whatever path, that is what you can do in the story to change it.
That's a badass dude who can muster the courage to enter into a war zone. Not a rice paddy, not Vietnam, but in the spiritual realm, enter into a space of, I need to make this right with my son. You're a father of 7-year-old.
I have a 7, a 3, and an 11-month-old.
It's still part of the courage needed when we hurt them. I have 27, 25, and 22.
Yeah.
And it doesn't change. There's moments that I miss and that I react or I didn't see, or I said the one thing as your dad's an attention to detail guy, right? That, I'd have done it this way. Oh man, I've done that. And to see their face fall or to see their reaction, it's the difference between trying to be right and pursuing understanding, pursuing their heart. I love what you said. I'm in 100% agreement. This is dad training. This is son training. This is man training.
Let's take a quick break and discover what else is going on in the world of Zoe.
Hey listeners, it's SJ. Just want to give you an update on upcoming events in 2021. The purpose of Zoe events is to create a safe space where men, women, and couples can encounter God, experience Him in wonderfully intimate ways, and enter into life-changing transformation. We want to invite you to get away with God, unplug from all the noise, the busyness, and the demands of everyday routine, and invite Jesus to take you through your story. The moments or seasons in your life that He wants to heal and restore in order to shape you more fully into who you truly are. That happens over and over again throughout the Bible. Regular folks encounter an incredible God, experience His love, and they are never the same. We have 3 events coming up in 2021. March 18th through the 21st is our Heart of a Warrior Allies Advanced Weekend. April 8th through the 11th is the Women's Deepening Weekend. And then April 29th through May 2nd is the Heart of a Warrior Encounter for Men. Visit zoe.org/events for more information.
Let's return to the conclusion of the conversation between Josh and Michael.
This is dad training. This is son training. This is man training. And this is the stories that you're offering, that you're learning. So back to you and this move home that most men, if not every man, would feel such loss and that sting of that I need to move home to make it. Some men can't, but you had a situation you could move back in with your parents. But if you could share that story and why you're celebrating that today versus the day you had to bring boxes and bags in to your parents' home front.
Yeah. So for the guys out there who are highly driven, like I am/was, who's an entrepreneur, educated, I wanted so hard, so much to be successful. And I drove and drove and drove and drove and pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed. I've had a lot more failures than successes, so no posturing here. I became a real estate broker, pretty young real estate agent, real estate broker, built millions of dollars of spec homes, built a lot of multifamily units, tons of it, syndicated investors, put together deals, built a few construction companies, was on the construction company, and then on the side of building out partnership, worked in private equity, worked in venture capital. When markets dropped, I went and got other types of jobs with government, and I became firefighter medic, and I've taught at the college. I did defensive tactics, and I was on the pension board, and I ran a landscaping company. And I'm just giving you a few. I retired early to build a fitness company, and I did a lot of stuff, lots of failures, but man, I would keep pushing and pushing and pushing. Built a consultancy, built 6 podcast shows. So the guy who builds stuff is definitely there.
It's in there, yeah.
Definitely build, try, fail, right? Over and over and over and over and over again. And it was one step closer to gold every single time. And then the year of the COVID, right? I was working with a private equity group, and then I was working in staffing industry, and I was just constantly breaking into new industries and becoming pretty good at it, rising to the top of either sales or whatever. So it seems like every time we have a kid, we have a financial collapse. Started with the first one, but we had a baby in January 2020. I had to get a real job because we had to pay bills, and all the past mistakes kind of were accumulating in that garage of the wallet, the bank account, right? All the past financial mistakes were catching up, and I was getting slower. No matter how hard I ran, they started accumulating and getting closer to me. So I got a job in the staffing industry, and I became the top sales guy for business development, cracking into new companies, breaking records and doing well. And my wife's excited for the first time in a long time. I got a real job, and we have more stability, even though I was used to building stuff and doing good at that. She loved the stability, especially with now 3 kids at home. And then this COVID happened. And before you knew it, I didn't have a job. I talked to my dad and he goes, Josh, move back home, move back home to Ocala. And I'm like, there's no way, Dad. No way. I'm not going to do it. He's like, I've been trying to get you to do this for 2 years. Come live at home, reset, man. I was like a prideful Josh, not going to happen. When that happened, I looked at my wife and kids and I just go, babe, we can't afford to carry on and the world's falling apart. People were scared and we didn't know if the world's going to shut down and everyone's going to die. And I'm like, we're moving back home. We went through our place and we were boxing up stuff and throwing things away. And I couldn't even donate it or sell it. People didn't even want to touch it because everybody's so afraid of everything. Yeah. And that fear and that anxiety was attacking us. So we moved back home in April. Talk about failure for a business guy, right? I spoke with some of my advisors and I go, hey man, this is where I'm at. This is what I'm doing. And this guy's worth $250 million. And I'm like being transparent with the guy. Hey, this is where we're going. This is what's happening. He goes, man, sounds like a good move. Move back home with mom and dad, reset. So I spoke with my advisor, spoke with my wife, and she's like, I'm not really excited about moving home with mom and dad, with 3 kids. Looks pretty embarrassing, especially small Ocala. We started the process of bankruptcy and the failure of that, the admitting defeat, the putting up the flag and quitting, right? I'm not going to quit. I'll catch up on all these bills. I'll catch up on this. I'll catch up on that. Raising that white flag. April was like, we moved back home, complete head in the dumps now. Don't have a job. Don't have this. Don't have that. Don't have a place of our own. Living with mom and dad, 38 years old at the time. Embarrassing. Complete failed, right? In business, you go bankrupt, that's fail. Move back home with mom and dad, you're a loser, And then the beautiful gift is, man, I got to work with my dad a lot. I got to help him and I got to be with him and take care of him on his deathbed. Bro, I'd go bankrupt 1,000,000 times for that.
Right.
Cut off my arm. Like that was the biggest gift. Him telling me he loves me and he's proud of me. I would crash any business for that. Now I get to be there for mom. That's amazing. Invaluable. So all that pride, if I would have just not done it, still been in Orlando, I would have missed out on that gift. So I'm thankful for that. It hurt bad, but like looking back, I'd do it 1,000,000 times over.
I think it's Soren Kierkegaard who said something to the effect of life has to be lived going forward, but is understood looking backward. This Danish philosopher of the 1700s or something like that. And it's true. And back to the Mandalorian, right? Yeah. This is the way. So bankruptcy's the way. It's the way. Humiliation's the way. It's the way.
It's the way.
And it's the next set of downs that leads to the next, that leads to the next. And to see our lives in a greater context, in a greater storyline, in a big journey, in an epic, that your life matters and every day matters. Josh, I'm proud of you for just sharing a section of yours. And hey, to me, this fits uncensored. Yeah. I gave you a couple cues. I said, here's where I want to go. When I brought it up several days ago, man, Josh, I think you need to share some of these phone calls I'm having with you. I said, I think men need to hear this. They need to know a man who's going through loss. Not perfectly, but well. Struggling well sometimes is just a beautiful thing. Proud of you for the way that you have stepped in. I'm sure, listeners, that Josh has shared some things that he hadn't shared with anybody.
Hey, I don't walk down the road going, hey guys, 39. Here's where I'm at.
Right now, you just opened it up to thousands. Yeah. I hope there's some who would applaud this courage, and I hope there's others who might even say in an email, could I talk to you some more? Is there somewhere I could go to get into a conversation like that? Again, courage is not the absence of fear, but it's in spite of our fear, we take the next step, we run the next play, recalibrate, we regroup, we take ground, we observe and we see what the hell is going on.
Yeah.
And that is one heck of a prayer. What the hell is going on? If you're asking yourself that and think that you have all the faculties and the abilities to discern and judge what is going on, you need some good counsel. You need some good men around you. I think you need a father in heaven who wants to father us in this. That's my bias. That's my encouragement. Heart of a Warrior, I'm not trying to make a plug for it. If you need a starting place, I'd recommend that book. The Heart of a Warrior is a place to recover the foundation of being a beloved son. And what is it to be a warrior in the kingdom? Maybe that book would help you. And Josh, I'm honored that you brought me into your podcast world. And now I'm excited that you stepped into your podcast world as someone who has a story to tell. Any final things, anything that you want to tell the listeners as we wrap it up? I'll give it back to you to close us out.
Okay.
Well done.
Yeah, thanks, man. So Josh was dying. I was dying for a long time, right? The dying of who the world wanted me, who my dad wanted me to be, who I thought I was supposed to be. That guy tried so hard to make it. And he was dying because he was just floundering in his pursuit of something for a long time. And then when my dad died, that's the guy who died in me. Business is doing pretty good. We're putting together some pretty cool things and making money. And that would have never happened if that guy didn't die. And that guy had to die in me because it was not who I was. And it was not realistic. He was very prideful. He was very proud. That guy who died in Josh, he was a imposter. For as hard as I tried, and I was always honest, transparent, but it just wasn't the real guy. Yeah. So now I'm rebuilding who I am. And I'm thankful for that gift because I got time, maybe. We never know. But if I do have time, I'm going to rebuild to be the guy that I want to be. And that was my dad. One of his final things was, I'm proud of you. And then he goes, Josh, what you're doing is pretty cool. As I was building these podcasts and doing coaching and investing in ideas and starting from nothing, going bankrupt, you lose all your money. You have very little assets left. Starting from that, I've been making better choices and building teams and building businesses, and it's working. So I'm getting to rebuild from excavated land, reset.
Deconstruction to reconstruction, right?
You got it. So I would say for guys out there, man, like some of you guys out there maybe need to do a reset, and that's okay. Do it with trusted. My wife and I went to counseling. I have advisors stacked around me now. I have guys that can talk into my life that have permission, that I drop the guard and I check in daily with. I have guys like Michael that I reach out to and that check in on me. I read their books. Perfect timing, reading his book and talking with my dad about it, and Kent Evans and all these dudes who focus on building men. I needed that in my life because when the foundation of who I was cracked and torn away, and starting with a tabula rasa, a blank slate, now I get to choose how I want to be built.
Right.
So I'm thankful for those guys. So guys listening in, we're going to take a knee for today. My encouragement to you guys is reach out to our guest. In this instance, reach out to our co-host, Michael. Thank you for your input today. Go check out his book, The Heart of a Warrior. It is a great book, and it talks from a great biblical mindset of what it is to be a man, especially if you're a guy like me who loves the fight, loves the battle. You're a little rough around the edges, and you're a guy who's driven. It's a good book for you.
There's a place for that in the kingdom, needed.
Yeah. Don't turn away who that is in you. Lean into who you are. So, guys, thanks for stopping by, listening into the show. This has been a treat for me. I was terrified of it, but I'm really glad that I stepped into it. Michael, thank you for your help.
You're welcome, Josh. Well done.
All right, guys. We'll talk to you on the next episode. See you guys.
Goodbye.
Thank you for listening to this 2-part interview with Josh Wilson and Michael Thompson. We invite you to go to your favorite podcast platform, rate, review, and share this podcast with your friends and family. You can reach the Zoe team with your feedback or questions at exploringmore@zoe.org. exploringmore@zoe.org.
We hope you have enjoyed this episode of Exploring More. The landing page for this podcast is zoe.org/podcast. That's ZOWEH.org/podcast, where you can find the show notes and various platforms to which we broadcast. You can also find us and the Life of More by visiting Zoe on YouVersion Bible app, Right Now Media, our Facebook page, and Zoe on Instagram and Twitter. Remember, with God there is always more, and you were made for more.